Om-jnana-timirandhasya jnananjana-shalakaya chakshur-militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Welcome to all the devotees and thank you for coming here. I'd like to remind the devotees to kindly keep your cell phones off while you're in this hall and to be in this festival in Vaishnava dress. So these Vaishnava festivals are being organized around the world nowadays by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And clearly the central theme of all such festivals should be Krishna and Krishna consciousness. However, different devotees may participate in such festivals with other motives also. It may be, as in all religions, people go to churches or mosques or temples, not only for directly religious purposes, but also in many cases for social purposes. They meet their friends, they chat with them, and they say, "How are you? Nice to see you," and all this kind of. Some young people may come in search of life partners because they think, well, I like this religion and I'd like to have a life partner, means a husband or a wife of the same religion, so where to find them but at such a gathering? Of course, it might not be only young people, it might be older people who are also looking for their second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth part-life partners. There may be some who are coming because they like to have a spiritual good time. Some really get into the kirtan, but they're not much interested in anything else. There are cases of those who organize such festivals to make a profit. So I'm not accusing anyone in this case here. So we see sometimes Vaishnava festivals, they seem to be very commercial with all kinds of things on sale and everything except the air you breathe having to be paid for. So at this festival we invite everyone to come here for the purpose that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to this world, that Srila Prabhupada came to this world, which very simply put is Krishna consciousness. There may be, just like mukti or liberation is a side effect of Krishna consciousness, there may be, apart from the directly Krishna conscious purposes, there may be social purposes to fulfill and so on. But our real purpose is Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtan Bhagavat Shravan Mathura Vas Shrimurtir Shraddhai Sevan. The five most important purpose or processes of Krishna consciousness as described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The first is Sadhu Sangha, associating with devotees. Sadhu Sangha, that just mentioned, the 6 kinds of exchanges with devotees. Dadati Pratigrihnati, offering gifts and accepting gifts. Guhyam Akhyati Prichati, confidentially discussing and inquiring. Bhungte Bhojayate, to accept prasad and to offer prasad. Bhungte Bhojayate Chaiva Shadvidha Priti Lakshanam. These are the 6 symptoms of love shared between devotees. Nama Kirtan, the meaning is clear to all of you, what that means, I hope. We should always remember that Nama Kirtan is meant for the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, is meant for Krishna's pleasure. We also become happy in Nama Kirtana. But we should remember that our real happiness will be the happiness that we experience in offering ourselves to Krishna. The happiness in Nam Kirtan doesn't come from expertise in playing musical instruments or dancing in various fancy ways, nor in various attractive tunes. These are all included in Kirtan. But the real essence of Kirtan is, as Srila Prabhupada explained, that when we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, we are praying, "O Krishna, O energy of Krishna, please engage me in your service." So this is the essence of bhakti. Savior Sevak Bhav, the feelings exchanged between the object of service and the servant, the served and the servant. And Bhagavata Shravan means hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Nowadays in our movement, Kirtan Melas are very popular. There's some kind of idea that, well, just everyone comes and you just chant together. And it doesn't matter whether you're following principles or not following, whatever weird philosophy, whatever kind of philosophy you might have, nothing matters, just chant. However, that is not what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meant when he propagated Hare Nama Eva Kevalam, the holy name is the only way. We find that although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is well known as Mahavadanya Avatar, the most munificent incarnation, he was also very strict, especially, he was very strict with himself. He very strictly adhered to the rules of sannyas, and he was very strict with his followers also. At least superficially, he rejected one of his dearest followers, Chota Haridas, for even in his mind having some kind of inclination toward a woman. So Bhagavat Shravan, hearing the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, works on various levels to purify our consciousness and to qualify us to actually chant the holy names of Krishna. Works on various levels means to purify us from attachments to mundane things, and to disabuse us of various misconceptions. So misconceptions and material attachments, they are both aspects of being in Maya, and they're both intimately linked with each other. Due to misconceptions, we remain attached to all that is material, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Pungsastriya mithuni bhavametam tayoraho hridaya grantimahuhu ato griha kshetra sutabta vitayar janasya moho yamahammameti. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. And this becomes especially strong when one becomes attached to a particular male or female. Because of this misconception, and this attachment develops, the misconception that life is meant for enjoying sex. Then our attachment toward wife, home, children, family, property, country, money, and so on develops. And thus we are bewildered, thinking in terms of I, me, and mine. So the misconceptions give rise to material attachments, and the misconceptions and the material attachments give rise to further misconceptions. For instance, because we think that life is meant for enjoyment, then we think that, well, let's all cooperate together and very nicely enjoy together. So we may think that someone is a great saintly person if they help with social welfare work, feeding the hungry, treating the sick, making cures for AIDS, and making peace treaties. But this is all nonsense. To think that helping anyone on the mundane platform can actually help them in any ultimate way is simply foolishness. So in this way, the misconceptions give rise to material attachments give rise to misconceptions, and it goes round and round in an interlinked, complex circle. So the first layer of Bhagavat Shravan is to clear out these material attachments and misconceptions. Nashta prayesh vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyutama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by serving the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious within the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service to the Lord is irrevocably established within the heart. So this cutting out the conceptions, that means removing all the abhadra, the inauspicious things within the heart. That happens by hearing from devotees that which is relevant to our present contaminated position, by hearing about topics that are relevant. Tudo du sangha utsrija satsu sajjeta buddhiman santa evasya chindanti manovya sangam uktibihi. We should, those who are intelligent, they should associate with devotees, giving up bad association. And by hearing from devotees, devotees will speak in such a way to break our mental attachments. So the first, by Bhagavat Shravan, by hearing the message of Bhagavatam, that the first thing that should happen is that the heart is purified. The same as with chanting the holy names. First effect, Chaito Darpana Marjanam, purification of heart. Then by attracting our mind to Krishna, then we transcend attractions to all that is mundane. So all these things go together. Associating with devotees. If there is association with devotees, then there will be chanting of the holy names. If there is chanting of the holy names, then devotees, they also gather to hear the message of Bhagavatam. And the other two items that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended are Mathuravas, residing in Mathura. So our acharyas have recommended that if we cannot personally live there, then at least mentally we should live there or aspire to live there. And Srila Prabhupada explained that in our ISKCON centers, where everyone is cooperating to serve Krishna without any personal desire, that is the same atmosphere as Mathura Vrindavan. So here in this festival we want to create the Vrindavan atmosphere. The essence of the Vrindavan atmosphere is that of selfless, loving service to Krishna. So, chant, dance, be happy. Nachao gao bhakta sange karo sankirtan, harinama upadeshi tara sarvajan. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, that his guru had explained to him that we should dance, sing, not just any dancing and singing, but specifically Krishna Nama Sankirtan. It means chanting the holy names of Krishna in association with devotees. And by instructing the glories of the holy name to others, we should attempt to uplift all other persons also. So there's a little outline of the purpose of the festival. Maybe some of you could contribute some suggestions as to what is the purpose of the festival, what should we be here for, why are we here?
I have a question. Will we go out for Harinam?
Yeah, very good idea. I actually hadn't thought of it because, like most of you, maybe almost all of you, I'm here for the first time. And I was under the impression that this was some forest hideaway, whereas actually we're in Nizhny Novgorod. So you can speak to the chief organizer, Sankirtan Guru. If you can catch him, he's like the electron zooming around the neutron, if you believe in that kind of. And ask him. Although it might be a bit, you probably have to get permission, and they just had a Rath Yatra last week and this and that, but it is a good idea. Very good suggestion. So please follow it through.
We are here to serve the spiritual master and other Vaishnavas and to inquire.
Very nice. Then?
Sure. We are here to hear about the glories of the holy name from a pure devotee.
Any other suggestions? I mean, you could go on unlimitedly, but different nuances of what it means to be in Krishna consciousness. Satang prasangam namavirya samvida. Read it, yeah? Say the whole verse. Say the whole verse. Satang prasangam. Yeah, just about 3 days ago in a class, one of the verse that came up in the Bhagavatam was about the glories of hearing about Krishna. If I remember properly, it was Canto 1, Chapter 18, Text 10 or 11. You want to look that up? I went through 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. What's the verse? Read the Sanskrit. Number 10. Govinda Pada Padma Sava Madhu. Yeah, because the sages at Naimisharanya, they'd organized a fire sacrifice, but they thought from doing so, the main result they got was a black face from the smoke. But they were inspired by the Govinda Pada Padma Sava Madhu, by the honey-like asava, which means like a tonic, which is the lotus feet, hearing about the lotus feet of Govinda. So in the course of discussing these verses, I cited so many verses from Bhagavatam, which describe the glories of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. The verse which Smita Krishna Prabhu read, that is one of the verses which Srila Prabhupada most often quoted, describing the importance of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or hearing Krishna Katha in the association of devotees. Satang prasangan mama virya sangvido bhavanti hrikarna rasayana kataha tajoshana dashva pavargavatmani Shraddharatir Bhaktir Anukramishati. You can learn these verses also. Also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he exhorts Arjuna to hear him. Can anyone think of a verse in which Krishna exhorts Arjuna? You just hear me. Tatshrinu, that's the part of the verse, yeah. That's the essential part. That, hear that. But the rest of the verse is also important. How Krishna tells Arjuna, you should hear that. So what is that? And how, what we should hear and how, in what mood we should hear it. Say it. Say the whole verse. Maya sakta manaf parata yogam yunjan marashraya asangshayang samagrang mang yata gyasasi tachtrino. Yeah, so there's just one short verse. Every word is packed with so much import. And this is actually the verse among all the Gita verses that Srila Prabhupada lectured on most of all. So read the translation. 7.1, chapter 7, text 1. It is very significant that it comes in this point in the Gita also, because prior to this, Krishna has given introductory topics. And now, beginning with chapter 7, he's going to get right to the essence of Bhagavad Gita, which is Bhakti Yoga. So read the translation. I'll just say it for the benefit of the recording. Now hear from me, O son of Pritha, how by hearing about me in full consciousness of me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So, throughout the Bhagavatam, again and again, we're reminded of the value of hearing Bhagavatam. In Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Chaitanya Charitamrita Nitta Karapan Jaha Hoite Premananda Bhakti Tattva. Yeah, well, when I'm in India, at least in North India, I don't have to translate it because the Bengali is so close to this Bengali is so close to the Hindi, you don't have to translate it. You can translate that, I guess. Because in North India I mostly speak in Hindi, and then you just have to say the verse and it's more or less understood. So if you can understand the original, then it works much, but it just goes into the mind automatically. Whereas if you translate it, it becomes a little clumsy. So Chaitanya Charitamrita. Amrita means nectar, which means one of the meanings of nectar is something very pleasing to drink, sweet and pleasing to drink. So Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nitya, always drink the nectar of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So if you know the language, you don't have to have all this translation. It just automatically goes into the mind without all this cultural explanation. Otherwise it might seem strange. It literally means always drink Chaitanya Charitamrita. You might think, how can you drink it? It's a book. So it becomes a certain kind of metaphor. It's a pun cum metaphor, I guess. And that's one of the beauties of high quality literature also. It's full of all kinds of literary devices which thrill the mind. Chaitanya Charitamrita Nitya Karopan Jaha. By drinking this nectar, one will attain Premananda, which means the bliss of love of Krishna, and Bhakti Tattva Gyan, knowledge of the philosophical categories of devotional service. Then another verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is in Sanskrit, most of the verses are there in Bengali, but a Sanskrit verse exhorting us to hear and enjoy transcendentally Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shruyatang nityam giyatam muda Chintyatang bhaktas Chaitanya Charitamritam. So, does that sound nice to you? To me it sounds very nice. Just the sound of it. Shruyatang nityam giyatam muda Chinchatas bhaktas Chaitanya Charitamritam. So this means that Shruyatam, always hear Chaitanya Charitamritam. Giyatam Muda, and very happily sing it. Chinchatam Bhakta, all devotees always think about, meditate upon the subjects of Chaitanya Charitamritam. Which means the book Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it also means not just formally the name of the book, but also the topic of the nectar of the charitra of Chaitanya. Charitra means the qualities and pastimes. There's a recorded conversation of Srila Prabhupada in which he spoke one verse in Sanskrit and commented just on how pleasing it is just to hear it. It's high on alliteration, which is a literary embellishment. So alliteration means where the sound, a similar sound is repeated again and again in a manner which is pleasing. So this was the verse. Samarshruta ye padda pallava plavang mahat padang punya yasho marare bhavam budhir vatsa padang padang padam parang padang yad vipatang natesham, which means, more or less, for those who have fully taken shelter of the boat, which is the lotus feet of Murari, Krishna, Samashrita ye padda pallava plavang, which award piety just to hear about. For such a person, bhavambadir vatsa padang parang padang. For such a person, the immense ocean of material existence becomes as easy to cross over as the water in a calf's hoofprint. Bhavambade vatsa padang parang padang 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 yadvipadang natesham. And for those who don't take shelter of the lotus feet of Murari, then this material world is a place where there is danger at every step, which we can all experience. And we should hear about regularly, because our tendency is to become complacent in this material world and to think everything is very nice. But at any moment, our nice life can turn into hell. Actually, it is hell all the time. But due to illusion, we think it is very nice. And then sometimes Krishna makes some arrangement to just smash our illusion and show us what a nasty place this material world is. So an intelligent devotee sees in adversity the kind hand of Krishna. Intelligent. Whereas a fool thinks that, well, let me manage this situation so I can get back to my business of enjoying life. So, we've come here to hear and chant about Krishna. To chant the holy names, certainly, but also to hear the topics of Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Upadeshamrita, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and all the Vaishnava literature. Okay, Hare Krishna. So, is there any arrangement, any plan to have arati in the evening? Is it scheduled for any particular time? 7 o'clock. Okay, I might not hand this out because otherwise you have to give me an artificial hand or something. You can give away on my behalf. You see, I don't play cartels because I get pain in my hands. So sorry, it's too much to give so many people this. Okay, I'm just in the remaining time before the arati. I'm going to address a question which I received through bvks.ru, and I've received a few similar queries. So this devotee says, I recently moved to Russia from Ukraine, and he found that the local devotees in the new place he's at are strongly influenced by government propaganda of patriotism and nationalism. Senior devotees in the temple and Sunday program and other venues talk about the need to become a patriot first and a devotee second, and their willingness to die for their country. Okay, you got the answer from the laughter of the devotees. You could also read the Bhagavad Gita as it is to get the answer. Should we be like this or not? No, it's nonsense. We are not the body. You are not Russian. Many people will be upset to hear this. They'll say this is very bad for the country. But actually, as we were just discussing yesterday, this whole idea of nationalism is a fairly recent invention. There was no nationalism a few hundred years ago. There were no nations as we know them nowadays. Different kings would control different areas, and the borders would change as the kings got more power or less power. And to quote the General Patton, who is the head of the Allied Forces forces in the Western Front after the Americans joined the war.
Which first or
Second World War. Second World War. He said no one ever helped. What is it? I can't remember now. No one ever won a war by dying for their country. You have to make the other poor, bastard, die for his country. Anyway, that's non-translated. It's not. It's a vulgar word. You have to make the other poor person die for his country.
Oh.
They didn't get the joke, obviously. Srila Prabhupada, when he went to France, saw the big statue of Napoleon. And Srila Prabhupada had heard the saying that Napoleon is France and France is Napoleon. So Prabhupada said, well, France is here. Where's Napoleon? We find in the Bhumi Gita of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 12th canto, that the Bhumi Devi, the goddess of the earth, she says that so many foolish kings, they fought over me, and they claimed proprietorship over me. They have all come and gone, but I just remain as I am. So don't be foolish. I don't think this is standard ISKCON propaganda. Just maybe some foolish person somewhere in the guise of a spiritual leader is talking this nonsense. But in the last, how long is this? When did this whole thing began with the reannexation of Crimea? Then that whole thing began, right? So when was that? About a year and a half ago?
March 2014, yes. March or February.
Yeah, but the Russian role became prominent with the. Yeah, you said the word invaded. That's what they say in the West.
In English.
In English it's invaded. I said reannexation. I'm trying to be a little politically correct here. So all this, and since that time, I've received different things like someone wrote to me an email and said, I want to go and join the Ukrainian forces. They're all demons, and we should fight. It's the demons against the demigods and all this thing.
Join the Ukrainian forces or the Russian forces? Who are the demons?
No, he was from Russian side.
Okay.
Or maybe I can't remember. Maybe it was Ukrainian said the Russians are demons. In the fight between the Kauravas and the Pandavas, the Kauravas were wrong and the Pandavas were right.
Oh.
But in the modern wars, both sides are wrong. You may say that, well, some side is better than others. For instance, present political and social situation in Russia is more favorable than if we were under a totalitarian Islamic regime. So you may say one side is better than another. But in such cases, all of them are apashyatam atma tattvam. They are blind to knowledge of the truth of the soul. So we can't really support any side, although we may acknowledge that one is more favorable for the practice and propagation of Krishna consciousness. As far as national consciousness is concerned, this just promotes a demoniac mentality. Do you remember some years ago we were going on a train I think we were going up towards Vologda or something like this. We were in a compartment and there was one guy who had just come back from Chechnya, and he was with his knife, which he was using for cutting open a tin of fish. With his knife, he said, with this knife I cut off so many Chechen people's ears and eyes.
I think it was from, we were traveling from Tambov somewhere, when the Srimad Pandita left tickets at home, something.
Anyway, it was in a train somewhere, and the guy was showing his knife.
Yeah.
He thought that was something very good, that he'd cut out so many people's eyes and ears. Then he asked you, because we were dressed in our Vaishnav dress, he asked you, then what's all this? And you explained a little bit. I remember him saying, we're Ruski, like this.
Я помню.
As if the symptom of a Ruski is that you cut Chechen people's eyes out. That's the sign of being a good Russian. Hare Krishna. They say religion is the opium of the people. How about nationalism is the opium of the people? It's an ideology by which certain people motivate others to go and die so that the few people can get rich and control. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
We also came here to hear the transcendental message from the spiritual master. Is it important to follow in the footsteps and to repeat whatever one's guru does, such as singing in a particular way during kirtana?
Did you want to repeat that?
Насколько важно повторять за гуру все, что он делает, например, правильно исполнять киртан и так далее.
Yeah, there are many details of devotional service. Follow in the footsteps doesn't mean that when the spiritual master walks, you have to look at his footprint and put your foot there. The word foot is used in Sanskrit and related languages to actually mean person, but addressing in a very respectful way. So we say following the footsteps means it's a metaphorical way of saying following, a respectful way of saying it.
Такой способ выразить эту мысль.